Hey guys, this is Matt from Castle Performance. Today we have my track E46 M3 here that we're going to install a set of Super Sprint V1 stepped headers. The intention here is going to be to compare them directly to the OE Euro header from Europe. They're factory catless in the header, so we're gonna take those and compare them directly to this. We generally see, 10 to 15 horsepower with just the Euro headers, so we wanna see exactly where we land in comparison to those. Hopefully we can keep mid-range torque that the Euro header offers, and then hopefully pick up some power up top. It's the ultimate goal here. So hopefully we have some good results and some good information for everybody. All right guys, what we got here is the Super Sprint V1 header. It is the step design. So what we have here is an 1 5/8" primary stepping up to 1 7/8" primary. And then after our collector, we come down into a 2.5 inch collector. Factory sizes, I believe the factory primaries are around that 1 5/8" size all the way through. So we should pick up some flow that way. And then after the collector on the stock one, we're only at 2 3/8 or 2 1/4. It's small. So we get a lot of power gains up here in the collector is the whole theory. So that's the design theory of these. They're much longer runner compared to the Euro header. So that's where the theory comes in, where we should pick up some power up top. And then hopefully the step design lets us retain a lot of the torque that the shorter header gives us. So these are from Super Sprint. They have a matching section 1. We will have that installed as well. It's also another 2.5 inch piece all the way back to the end of the section 1. Other than that, everything else in the system will be the same. Currently it is Euro headers, OE section 1. And then we have a Super Sprint single pipe section 2 on it. And then it has a Dyno muffler in the back. So that's the current exhaust setup. First, let's see what kind of power we're making here with the Euro headers, and then we'll get those dialed in, and then we'll put these on.
So what did it actually make on the 93 too?
On 93, we made our best pull SAE numbers. We were 363 and 279 foot-pounds of torque. So that was after we calibrated it. A little bit here, we got really just some fueling stuff. We left the timing the same. So pretty much now it is ready to get the header swapped over to the Super Sprints, and we'll throw it back on the dyno as is under the same tune.
Gosh dang, track hawks.
Anyway, so yeah, we'll roll it back on the dyno, same tune as it was. We'll see if it needs more fuel. That'll be a pretty good indicator. If it made any extra power, we'll have to add more fuel. But we'll get a good comparison run of exactly where we're at, see what we get. We're back here, we got the headers out. Here's a nice comparison of the Euro headers versus the Super Sprint headers. Obviously the first thing we notice is just the runner length is much longer. Secondly, we can tell the runners are stepped here versus just a same diameter into the collector. So we got a longer tube runner, as well as the diameters bumped up. The idea there is to help us carry that torque mid-range into the top end. Secondly, our collectors are much larger. So we're going up to a 2.5 inch collector from, I believe it's about 2 1/8 inch collector. So that's where the power gain should be. We'll get them on the car here and we will get it back on the dyno and figure it out. Yeah, so the old headers were already out. Alex took those out. God, that was probably 2 weeks ago. So now we're gonna install the headers. I just got rid of the rest of the S54 exhaust studs, so now we're gonna put in the N54 stud, just as they're a little more serviceable. They have the E-Torx on the end there, so they're a lot nicer to install. A little longer, just makes for a nicer install at the end of the day. So I'm only running one sensor on this, and I actually run wide bands on mine versus factory narrow bands. So I am trying to find, because I think that's the collector spike right there. So I'm gonna use the second port down here because it's a better average of these 3 cylinders versus this bung is only gonna really read this cylinder, so this will give me a better average overall.
All right, this is what, the official startup?
The official startup this time. Okay. So this is Super Sprint V1 headers, Super Sprint Section 1 non-resonated or catted, a resonated Super Sprint single Section 2, and a Dyno muffler. Way different. Looked a little leaner on the gauge, so see if it picks up any power or not. With our E46 M3 car that we're going to do our test with Super Sprint V1 headers versus the Euros. We're going to just do a baseline run of direct comparison of the previous tune to just a fact check and data check that we gained power, and we'll kind of go over the results here right after the run, right? So just did the first couple runs here. Initial reactions are kind of what I expected. It makes all but the exact same power. So AFRs are pretty much right where I left them with the Euro header, and to me that's indicating that we haven't improved airflow any better or any worse for that matter. So honestly, there's not really anything to tune. As I said, the AFRs are exactly the same as I left them. So I don't really think there's anything to touch up in the tune. That's the original Euro header. That's what that looks like. 363, 279. So that was Euro header after, which wasn't really many revisions. That was only a couple pulls on the dyno in September. This is where we did the super sprint, was a month later. We did the super sprints on the dyno, so I made a bunch of adjustments there. Couldn't get it to do any better than probably the best run, probably the last one, which is actually marginally worse. So what we talked about before was the Euro header making better torque, mid-range torque, and that's kind of what we see right here. So between those two, we saw some gains in torque with the Euro header. Up top, I think, was probably the surprising part with the super sprints, just not being able to make the power that the Euros were able to. So surprising there. And even as we got colder weather again because we tuned it again like a month later just to see if it adapted or made any things, and actually that's when I started to get a little different with the tuning stuff to try to regain some of that torque we lost, or some of that power. But I don't know, there's an ebb and flow to it, because like here where we were down before, now it's a little worse there but better over here. So I don't know, some of the run-to-run inconsistencies that we see. You know, all these runs are a few minutes apart, but they're all a little different. Basically, there aren't really any gains compared to the Euro header. So ultimately, it's pretty much the same. The only thing we have less of is money. So power-wise, I'd say it's pretty similar. Yeah. So Euro header is probably the best bet overall as far as price is concerned, and power, fitment. That's kind of the best all-around header, just because it just works really well, makes good power, and you can find them cheap. Like I just saw a set online for $300
Wow.
the other day.
Instead of spending how much?
$2,800.
$2,800. Yeah.
A set of headers and a mid-pipe. So here's your proof. That's with a bunch of different Vanos changes, trying to make it make power, and just ultimately that was all those had in it for that engine, at least. So maybe it'll be different if we, you know, have like a higher compression motor or something with cams. Maybe it'll change it there, but you can always try that out later.